Hello and welcome to this new lecture on margin and padding. To examine both files simultaneously, the styling and app components have been separated in the VS Code editor. Splitting will be required since failing to do so will result in additional time being spent repeatedly switching from one file to another, making it difficult to continue working smoothly. Alright. Let's now examine basic styling techniques. So styling is required because there is little distinction between components when the program is opened. It indicates that there is no text layout, padding, or margin. Only colors are used to distinguish components. Okay, so let's start with styling as it applies to typefaces. Go to the second component's styling to see where the text is used. You are aware that a bold font weight makes an element bold, but it also makes the edges and other parts of the element heavy. Now, if you align the text, it will by default be printed on the upper left side of the application. As you can see, Peter is printed on the left side of the screen, but we want to put it in the middle. So to change this layout, go to the second component's styling and use text align and specify center. Then save the file and open the application. You should notice that the second component is printed in the center, but Peter is not. So what happened here is that the second component is functioning since props are being used while Peter is simply using inline styling. Now, if you want to add external styling, go to the second component's text element, use an array, and add styles.text in the array, followed by a comma. Peter is now printed in bold characters in the program and is center aligned, as you can observe when saving the file and opening it. By default, text is positioned horizontally, but if you like, you can align the text vertically as well. However, the property is currently not functioning properly, so ignore Peter's vertical alignment for the time being. Now go to the div's main content and center it along with any justified elements. Then save the file. Now that the code is operating correctly, you won't need line items if you go to the application. To print text horizontally in the application's center, use text align center. You can observe that text is produced on the application's left side. If you remove the text alignment from the center and then open the application. If you delete justifying content, you won't be able to tell the components apart clearly. Justifying content functions vertically, okay? Although there are other ways to align the content, this one is the easiest. Beginners might initially have trouble with centering text, but this procedure will also work on the first property. Beginners might initially have trouble with centering text, and yeah, as you can see, this procedure will also work on the first property, so you may try it there as well. The concept of creating a div and centering it has now been covered. After that, the fundamentals of padding and margin will be discussed. Let's now talk about padding and margin usage. In reality, margin refers to both the space outside of divs and the space between divs. Padding is found in any div's side section. If you consider a div to be a box, the padding and margin refer to the inside and outside of the box, respectively. Currently, all items are printed together in the app, but if you add a margin, they will mix up and become confusing. Okay, so command the text, view, and button tags in order to improve understanding. And as a result, when the source code is released, everything will become clear once you've removed the comments from the codes and you're able to see how they function. Also add data props. Comment out styling in the style.js file. Now, if you save the file now and open the application, you will notice that it's now empty. Create a view element in the app.js file by going there, then use the text element to write the first box there. The same process is repeated until 4 boxes are created. Now, style the first text element inline. Use phrases to choose a style and the color green. When you save the file and open the application, you will find that the first box is operational. Give a margin of 20 units to the first box, text, tag, and save the document. Now, if you open the application, you can notice that the first box now occupies a larger area than it did previously. You will want to save the file every time you change a component to make sure your editing is applied. Add a background color to check that the property is functioning correctly. And as soon as you set the margin to 0, after applying the background color, you can see that the first box's space is still covered by the green background. Give a height of 100 units as well at this point to observe the entire process in action. Now that the box has been constructed, you can view the box in front of you. Next, add margin and padding to this box to evaluate where margins and padding are effective. The navigation bar's view is currently hidden. You should put the first box below the navigation bar to prevent material from being mixed up. As you can see, so if you unhide the view from above, so this is what happens. For this, select style, give top margin and give it a value of 10 units. Save the file now, and when you open the application, you'll notice that the first box is positioned slightly below the navigation. The first box won't leave space above for a navigation bar if you select a margin top of 30 units and save the template. Now, if you select the top 40 pixel margin, there will be enough space for the navigation bar. Since using the navigation bar alongside the component will result in a poor user experience, you must provide enough room for both components. Some phones have a blank screen or icons in place of the menu, which prevents your content from displaying correctly. In order to launch the components from the main screen, leave some screen space for the navigation section. When working on an emulator, you can access all different versions and test your app on any phone to ensure that it works properly. Up until now, the topic of discussion was margins. As you're already aware that padding refers to the interior of the box and margin to its exterior, let's now discuss the idea of padding. So if you specify left padding and give it a value of 50, save the file, then open the application, you will see that the material is arranged from left to right. If you wish to add extra space, padding will function as intended when you follow those steps. The content will be printed in the middle of the box if you provide left padding of 150 and save the file. There are numerous possibilities for paddings, including padding at the bottom, the left, the top, and the right sides of the box. Therefore, you can add any kind of cushioning based on your needs and preferences. As of right now, top padding has a value of 10. Thus, the first box has moved a little bit down. If you use top padding, the content will be positioned from top to bottom according to that number. To print the content in the box's center, select top padding 40, left padding 10, and top padding 40. Now duplicate the styling and paste it into each additional box. When you save the file and open the application, you will see that all the boxes have been correctly disposed on the screen. Additionally, you can see that there is a space between each of these boxes, since style takes advantage of the top margin. The space between the boxes has been removed, but they are now all mixed up if you remove the top edge from the boxes and save the file. Okay, use the bottom 10 pixels of the margin to see the boxes separately. When you save the file and open the application, you will see that the two boxes have been divided. As a result, you may create divs and use padding and margin appropriately. Use a bottom margin of 10 in each box and then save the document. Now, if you go to the application, you can see that each box was produced separately and that you can clearly tell them apart. Because it's essential to understand all the fundamental principles relating to margins and padding, the lecture on padding and margin is quite long. So these concepts will work properly in web development if you put them into practice. Because of this, it's well known that web developers can work with React Native quite easily, and vice versa. If you use Flutter in another pure programming language, the styling of the components will be different. If you design websites using React, the working environment is React-based. So the only difference between web development and app development is the syntax. Otherwise, the same ideas will apply. Okay, so thank you very much for watching and see you soon in the next lecture.